listen, it wouldn't be appropriate Zoom WebEx if if I didn't start us off that way. So I want to welcome everyone. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. This is the Township Council Conference meeting for October 12th, 2021. Thank you all for joining us. And Rick, thank you for helping me unmute. This is a conference meeting, and it is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and streaming live on Montclair TV 34 YouTube channel. It's available on demand and can and will be rebroadcast. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting was included in the revised annual notice of the meeting schedule set forth in Resolution R21165, adopted by the Council at its conference meeting of August 11, 2021, advertised in the official newspaper on the 19th, posted in the bulletin boards outside the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted. In addition, a copy of the revised annual notice has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the Township Clerk. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Counselor Cummings,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Present.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Present.
Counselor Russo,
Present.
Counselor Schlager,
Here.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Present.
Mayor Spiller.
Present. Thank you very much. We'll adopt the agenda with flexibility. First, I want to approve the minutes. There have been minutes presented to us of December 1st and December 15th. I'd like to move it and then ask if there's any modifications. Someone would like to move it?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any modifications, questions, concerns, comments? Councilwoman Price Abrams.
I don't know if I misheard you or if you may have misspoken. Did you say 12-1?
December, yeah. I'm sorry, what's that? Yeah, December 1st and December 15th. That's what I said.
I'm just, because this is October, so how far back are we? That's when they were from? I guess I read them quickly.
Yeah. So basically, as I know you remember, Councilman, we had obviously changing in clerks and a whole bunch of other things. So it's catching up on a lot of the minutes previously and making sure they're up to date and officially approved anyway.
Thank you. Okay, absolutely.
And Madam Clerk, would you like to add anything to that, or did I summarize it?
No, thank you, Mayor. You summarized well. Thank you.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. We have, excuse me, throat a little bit today. We've adopted those minutes. Next, I want to go over, we do have a few proclamations that I'd like to do. First is a proclamation recognizing the importance of lupus awareness. And can I ask Councilman Russo, would you please do the honors on that one?
Thank you, Mayor. Proclamation recognizes the importance of lupus awareness. Whereas lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease that is affecting all nationalities, races, ethnicities, genders, and ages. It's considered a serious global health problem, and an estimated 5 million people worldwide suffer from some form of lupus. The Lupus Foundation of America estimates that 1.5 million Americans are living with lupus. Approximately 1 in 250 people may end up developing this. Whereas lupus is a health condition that affects the immune system, it causes the body's defense system to attack healthy cells and tissues instead of viruses and bacteria. This can damage many parts of the body, such as the joints, skin, kidneys, heart, lungs, blood vessels, and brain. And whereas lupus currently has no cure, it's one of the most difficult diseases to even diagnose, as its symptoms come and go and can mimic those of other diseases. There currently exists no single test that can authoritatively identify the disease. And whereas the outlook has vastly improved for those who have lupus, patients are living longer, more normal lives because of increased awareness, improved diagnostic methods, and more effective therapy. As a result of advances from biomedical research and positive findings, the advancement of treatment methods has progressed. Whereas biological scientist Judith Mills founded a nonprofit organization called Butterfly Walkers Incorporated to increase public and professional awareness and help create an educated population. The organization advocates for people with the disease, works to inform patients and their families about their treatment options, and raises funds for research to find a cure. Active in both the Research Lupus Alliance and the Lupus Foundation of America, New Jersey chapter, Professor Mills has also formed support groups to help people with autoimmune diseases. Whereas to take advantage of the knowledge already gained through public awareness of symptoms and treatment of lupus, the need for scientific research remains essential. In the Montclair community, the Butterfly Walkers, the Lupus Foundation, and the Lupus Research Alliance assist various fundraising events, such as the Walk to End Lupus Now. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Township of Montclair hereby recognize the importance of lupus awareness and urge the Montclair community to seek out the resources to educate themselves about the disease and efforts to better support all those who are affected. We thank Professor Judith Mills for her dedication and perseverance and recognize her for her invaluable contributions to the Montclair community. I so move. It's signed by the Mayor and Council.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And as noted, oftentimes we do these proclamations to help raise awareness and to hopefully shine a spotlight, to help an issue or cause, and certainly an example of that. Council, thank you, Councilman, for reading that. Next, we have a proclamation congratulating the Women's Club of Upper Montclair for their 120th +1 year anniversary. And at that, I know that Councilman Russo, Deputy Mayor, and myself were able to be there for the event. Councilman Russo just reading the other one. Mr. Deputy Mayor, would you split this one with me then, if you don't mind?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be honored to.
Great. All right. Let me start us off then. So this is a proclamation congratulating the Women's Club of Upper Montclair on their 120th +1 year anniversary. Whereas the Women's Club of Upper Montclair, WCUM, was founded by Miss Dodd on October 4th, 1900. WCUM began with a small group of neighbors who called themselves the Thursday Club and met weekly to discuss questions of common interest and to work on projects that benefited the community. This year, the WCUM celebrated their 120th +1 year anniversary, and whereas the club is organized exclusively for charitable, educational, and scientific purposes, it continues the original purpose of bringing women together for mental stimulus, cooperation in working out the problems of the day, and to consider and provide measures of social welfare. Club meetings are often the opportunity for educational exploration through guest speakers or special performances. Additionally, WCUM furnishes entertainment for the benefit of the Montclair community, such as luncheons, needlework groups, bridge and other card games, chorus and a book club, and much more. Whereas the club members are commended for holding their time as women in public service in high regard. In January 1926, former president Miss Thomas Cornington was the first woman to be appointed member of the Montclair Library Board. From 1980 to 1984, former club member Miss Mary Mockery served as the first woman as mayor of Montclair. Mr. Deputy Mayor, if you don't mind picking up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the club has a longstanding history of many achievements. In 1927, about 63 years prior to the enactment of the American with Disabilities Act, WCM established the Hard of Hearing Committee, and the lip reading classes were often given to both members and the community. In May of 1929, WCM initiated the use of reusable cotton duck bags for municipal refuse collection, which helped make the town sightlier on collection days. And whereas the club's efforts during World War I and World War II were exemplary, WCM had very active Red Cross units furnishing volunteer aid to the sick and wounded during both wars. In February of 1942, WCM was the first organization in Montclair to assemble a Bundles for America unit, which provided service kits and furnishings to the armed forces during World War II. Since 1951, WCM has been providing nursing education scholarships to local schools of nursing. And whereas, as a member of the New Jersey State Federation of Women's Clubs, WCM actively continues to support the Girls Career Institute and other special projects which support fellowship among women. With their long history of philanthropic support, the club continues to give back to the community by supporting local service groups, local veterans, and organizations including the Human Needs Food Pantry Tony's Kitchen, Montclair FMBA, Montclair BBA, Project Graduation, Iris Presby Gardens, and the Montclair Emergency Services for Hope, better known as MESH. Now therefore, the mayor and the council of the Township of Montclair hereby congratulate the Montclair on their 120+1 year anniversary and commend all the hard work, generosity, and service they continue to provide to help shape the lives of many people in Montclair. And Mr. Mayor, I so move.
And I second that. Thank you.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And certainly as noted, I know my council colleagues, many of whom were there would agree. It's great to really be a part of their celebration, if you will, and have conversations and talk about the rich history and certainly a nice positive proclamation there. We do have another proclamation, certainly with much heavier hearts and a memoriam. May I ask Councilman Cummings, would you mind, please?
Mayor, thank you so much. This is in honor of Myrna Owens Hinton, longtime resident, one of those pillars. Again, last time, second council meeting in a row, we've had this. I lost someone who was very dear to this community. So I appreciate this. Township, Montclair, New Jersey Proclamation and Memoriam, Myrna Owens Hinton. Whereas the mayor and council of the Township of Montclair are saddened by the recent passing of Myrna Owens Hinton, a cherished resident of Montclair, and whereas Ms. Hinton was a registered nurse for more than 65 years, worked as a public health nurse for many years before becoming executive director in family planning for both Essex and Middlesex County. She retired from the state of New Jersey Department of Children and Families, Regional School, Essex County, where she worked as a school nurse. And whereas Ms. Hinton was a dedicated and active member of St. Mark's United Methodist Church, where she held positions on the Pastor Parish Relations Committee and the Agape Fellowship Committee. In addition, she led the young adult choir and served as chancel choir president, director of the gospel choir, and lay speaker. Ms. Hinton demonstrated commitment above and beyond her local church by serving as president of the United Methodist Women Organization. This organization supports programs in the United States and around the world that benefit women, children, and youth, therefore impacting entire communities. And whereas Ms. Hinton is a past president of the Montclair chapter of the National Council of Negro Women, member of the Baroque Choral, Soul Stomper Parent Committee, and in most recent years, an active member of MNDC, Do Drop In Senior Citizens at Glenfield Park House and the Wally Choice Center. And whereas Ms. Hinton was recently honored as a Grand Marshal at the 2021 Montclair African American Heritage Parade, and whereas she is predeceased by her parents, Richard L. Owens Sr. and Martha John Owens, her brother, Richard L. Owens Jr., and her son-in-law, Reverend Alvin R. Jacobs. She leaves to mourn her children, William G. Hinton Jr., Kevin M. Ali, Keith M. Ali, and Marilyn Jacobs, her 9 grandchildren, and a host of nieces, nephews, and other relatives and friends. Now, therefore, the mayor and council of the Township of Montclair hereby recognize the many contributions of Myrna Owens Hinton over the course of her life, express the thanks of a grateful community, and extend their sympathy to her children and many family members and friends who will cherish her memory. And I so move.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
If I may, I'd like to comment on this. As Councilor Cummings said, it's tough to lose one of the pillars and elders of our community. Our families go back generations to Miss Hinton's parents, Richard and Martha, and my grandparents, Bucky and Aretha Harris. So it's all part of that community that it really breaks your heart when we lose someone like this. Our deepest condolences to Marilyn, Billy, Keith, and Kevin, and I send prayers of comfort and healing to the whole family. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I think you really, summarize it and put the point on it importantly well, and that it's just such a rich history there, and what that means, and certainly a big loss, and certainly we're all saddened. So thank you. Okay. All right. Seeing no other comments on the proclamations, let's move on to public comment. Mr. Stafford, Mr. Fan, I'm going to turn it over to you. In an effort to minimize exposure to COVID-19 and to maintain social distancing practices, this meeting of the Township Council and further meetings until the pandemic is over will only be available to the public remotely. Those who wish to participate now during public comment should dial into 408-418-9388. When asked to enter an access code, please enter 2335-417-6770 and then press pound. When asked to enter an attendee number, simply press pound. When asked to state your name, please do so and press pound. The administrator will say when it's the caller's turn to speak, the caller will then hear 2 beeps and have an opportunity to make his or her comments. Mr. Stafford, Mr. Fan.
Thank you, sir. First up tonight to comment is the caller with the number starting 609-751, 609-751. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Lonnie Summer Padilla, and I am calling because I am one of the mothers who organized the COVID pop-up testing sites that happened last week and the week before. And initially, we were authorized the permit to use Nishuane Park. And when we went to try to have the permit renewed, we were told that the town council was not, and possibly the mayor, were not okay with it. I spoke with the town manager, and he said that the reason for this was because of a town ordinance that would not allow for the use of a for-profit entity to operate in the parks. I was told that you could, in fact, issue a very narrow waiver for COVID testing specifically during this pandemic. I was told that the council was not interested in doing that and that instead we should look to the schools, even though our pop-up testing sites serve the entire community and we did have people who were not connected to the schools whatsoever come to our sites to get tested. I then emailed Mr. Cummings. I actually emailed all of you today and received a response from Mr. Cummings, who told me that the reason that you would not approve it is because of concerns of COVID, which is very confusing to me because it's a testing site for COVID, which would help to actually mitigate the spread of COVID within our community. And I can't figure out what the issue is exactly or why the council would be opposed to this, given that this would assist in public health in our community and would help to mitigate the spread of COVID for everyone in our community. It's really baffling to me. I hope that this can be reconsidered and that we will be issued the permits to operate within the parks. It is not easy to find a private space to do this. We have 2 partners with us, MFEE, which is a nonprofit organization, and also MedRight, which is for profit, but also, is really just collecting reimbursement from insurance and also through the state for people who do not have insurance. So I'm really confused about all of this. I hope you can help to clear this up. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I clarify the statement here?
Councilman Cummings?
Yeah, what I told the caller was last year when we were trying to get the remote learning center up, one of the concerns for the council was liability issues of 11 Pine Street. I did not say that we were not giving her or the group any kind of a permit for that reason. What I told her was that was one of the concerns that we had, and I can see that concern being shared here. And it was also one in which I shared empathy with her, but I think the characterization that the reason the council said no to this, in fact, I don't even know if the council members knew about this to say no, because I sure didn't until I saw her email. What I also shared with her was that when it was brought to my attention that the organization was requesting a permit for Nishuane, and I reached out to the town manager and the recreation department, because in the past we've had organization request permits to use the field, the Nishuane, and they were denied. And so my point was that this is not something that we've done in the past. And I think I just wanted to make that clarification. I also followed up with Maciel Vars Rodriguez of MFEE to get a little further clear picture of the relationship. And so I think this is something that the entire council, if it wants to look into this, needs to speak to the people who are actively involved in this across both parties, and then get a better, clear picture of what is going on. And I don't know if the manager has anything to add to that.
Mr. Stafford, do you have anything you'd like to add to it?
Well, the only thing I would add is that I didn't say that the governing body members had come out against the permit application, because I would have no way of knowing that, having not consulted with any of the governing body members. I alone, as it is my responsibility to do, ruled on the permit. It was not an arbitrary ruling. It was after discussing the issue with both the township attorney and the Recreation and Cultural Affairs director. And I explained that to the caller. And given that the thrust is clearly to benefit the schools, I did suggest on multiple occasions that the organization go to the schools. And I'm not sure what has happened in that regard since.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to get something clear here, because I did respond to the caller, not knowing anything more, and as the manager says, and Councilman Cummings say, we didn't know. Well, who could have represented us as being against a permit? We don't even get involved with that. I guess maybe we're the ones that can overcome if a waiver is needed, but why would we be even involved with a permit? And so for this constituent to say she heard that I, for example, was against issuing a permit, that's not true. Plus, nobody told me anything about this. So I'm not so sure whether I want a permit or don't want a permit, but nobody asked me if I want a permit. What role do I have in issuing a permit? It seems like a good program. It seems like something that's helpful. So I hate to obstruct something that's helpful. Volunteers are doing something to help us fight COVID or help people get tested. But I mean, I need to know more, and I'm very confused myself.
What I heard there is, anyone with more questions, certainly Mr. Stafford seems like he's been addressing it based on ordinance and everything else. So reach out for more information. Mr. Stafford, Mr. Fenn.
Thank you, sir. Next would be caller with the number starting 917825. 917825. Please do us the service of muting your listening device, stating your name, and keeping your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. This is Suzanne Atman, co-chair of the Montclair Environmental Commission. Hope you are well. I hope you will support, as you always do, the fall tree planting resolution of 250 trees. And thanks to Steve Wood and his team for leading this important program for our community, and to Mr. Stafford and Council for continuing to finance it. As always, as the Environmental Commission, we want to advocate and reinforce the importance of planting trees that are native or eco-beneficial and diverse species that will support biodiversity in our town, and that they are shade trees wherever possible to have a greater impact on air quality and heat distribution. Also, we encourage placement in strategic locations such as areas where there's faster rainfall flow, so the tree roots can help mitigate stormwater runoff, and that we continue to ensure equitable plantings in all areas of town. Along these lines, I want to let you know that we recently launched our Every Yard Counts campaign to recognize residents and encourage others to take action in our own yards to protect our local environment, reduce stormwater runoff, and help mitigate climate change. We ask residents to complete a quick survey and let us know whether their yard is or will be an air pollution preventer, water conserver, water cleaner, food producer, wildlife protector, and/or tree preserver. We intend to provide the results back to the community and hope to recognize those who are setting examples for the rest of us. A special incentive to participate: when 250 residents complete the survey, $500 goes to Tony's Kitchen. And you can link to the categories and survey on the homepage of the Environmental Commission web page, montclairenvironmentalcommission.com. I hope you will participate as well, Mayor and Council. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 650-889. 650-889. For the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, this is Rich. There have been reports that the AFT and NEA, the two major national teachers unions, have been sending out requests to their members for teachers to gather information on their students and parents' contact information and vaccination status and enter into this REACH app, and ostensibly for encouraging vaccination, but this the company behind the REACH app has a history of political work. Our mayor is the president of the NJEA, which is the New Jersey affiliate of the NEA. So I would like to ask if there's any truth to this report in the Montclair School District, and if not, what steps will be taken to prevent this? Because obviously this is both illegal and unethical.
Thank you.
Can I just say that the caller mentioned my union, AFT, and I don't know if he understands there's two separate unions, and NEA and AFT, national unions, representing teachers. So I don't know of anything that my union's doing, so I can just speak for Montclair State faculty, which are in the AFT, and I don't think that anything like this is going on from our AFT local union at Montclair State, which I'm the treasurer of. Just let the caller, I just want to let the caller know that. If he wants to call me, go ahead and reach out to me, 973-567-9397, Bob Russo. Thank you.
Next would be caller with the number starting 415-418. 415-418. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay, that's my fault. I should have gone straight. Basically, there was a report in the New York Post.
Okay, it's obvious that that person is still listening to the previous call, so we will move on to 201-424. Caller with the number starting 201-424. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Ron Simonson, Montclair Property Owners Association. I feel I need to set the record straight about some things that were said on the call last meeting after we complained about there being no rational justification for a rent freeze that lasted until December 31st. And I think it's based on just a little simple math that in New Jersey, 7.2% of the people are employed, and the rent freeze covers 100% of the people. And they call that a dumbrella. That's when you put an umbrella over places where it's not even raining. Our point has been there are people who need help. Our point has also been there is a rational way to do rent control. Our point has been that this council and the council before it have not done the necessary research to figure out what it is about Montclair that requires rent control or rental assistance, and then provide that rent control or rental assistance where it's needed and how it's needed. There's just been a blanket approach to saying the right thing to do for people is control rent. That is not necessarily true. It certainly hasn't proved true in 3/4 of all the communities in New Jersey or more. 80% of all the communities in New Jersey don't have rent control. Montclair has defeated rent control 4 times. There's a reason for that. But this council hasn't endeavored to do the work that it takes to actually figure it out. And so I'm sure that Councilman Russo is going to give an impassioned speech about his care about people, and I'm sure he does care about people. But don't say you've thought it through. You haven't thought it through. You haven't done the research. You haven't looked at the data. I'm sure the mayor's going to ignore the statement and go right along, which is his right and which is what he's been doing the entire time. But that doesn't give anybody in Montclair a comfort about the fact that the rent control regime you proposed is appropriate. It only says to the tenants, not the tenants actually, the tenant advocates, that they've been heard. The several of them who come here representing constituencies that don't even announce themselves. So I know that it's the big bad landlord who says, oh, give me money, and that's the way you want to characterize it. That's not what's happening here. What's happening is you're transferring obligations from one set of people to another without any justification, just with a rationalization that it protects the people who need protection. Why don't you just find those people who will help you do it, and let's protect them and not ruin the entire real estate market in Montclair, including the homeowners, over something that can be resolved much more simply. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to make an impassioned speech. I just want to say that for approximately 22 years, and I'm not lecturing anybody when I say this, I've had the experience of working on the council since 1992 and a break of 8 years. I have never heard people make such negative comments about the council's motives and procedures and whatever that I've heard from some of the landlord folks. I want to help small landlords. We all do. I want to maybe carve out something, make an exception for smaller landlords. I don't want people who don't need help to get help, just like the national debate is over that, you know? But, you know, when we made Social Security, everybody got it, okay? What we have to do is find a way to transition from the freeze to the rent control. If we have rent control, we wouldn't have to have a freeze. The landlords have obstructed us from implementing rent control for over a year. The rent control ordinance isn't perfect when you say 80% of the people in the state don't have it. Well, is that good? Maybe 80% of the people couldn't get it because of the lobbying done by landlords. So we are trying to help tenants and seniors particularly, and people who've been struggling during this pandemic and economic struggle to maintain their homes in Montclair so we can have a diverse community that's not made up of just the wealthy. And this is all we're doing. We're doing the best we can. It's not perfect. The mayor, 2 other council members, and I were part of the past council that did it. So don't blame the new people, but the 4 people who had served before did something that we had been struggling to do for years in this town. Every time you say it's been defeated, it was defeated because huge ads were placed scaring everybody that it's such a terrible thing that's going to drive everybody out of Montclair and destroy all properties and destroy property owners. Scare tactics by negative advertising. We don't know what will happen now if there's a referendum, but we did the best we could to pass something to help people. Not perfect. You attack my motives. You specifically addressed me, so I'm just telling you it's not an impassioned speech, but I do have a commitment to this, and I'm going to fight for tenants and for landlords who are smaller that need some help. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Manager.
Next would be the caller starting with the number starting 917-545. 917-545. Please mute your listening device, state your name for the record, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, this is John Van Wagner calling. I'm calling to address the upcoming referendum on the elected versus appointed school board, the institution of an elected versus appointed school board. Over the last year and a half, we've seen the result of stifled democracy when an elected mayor presides as the president of the NJEA, appoints a school board, controls nominally or indirectly, but still effectively, the Board of Schools estimate where all financial decisions are made, and stays mute as the schools stay locked down and students regress emotionally, psychologically, and academically. This has to change. The movement to institute an elected school board is not a panacea for all of these issues, but it provides one sorely missing quality to the whole process: accountability. Issues can be aired, candidates vetted, policies debated with the inclusion of an electorate which includes a plurality of stakeholders in our education system, namely parents. The arguments for maintaining the status quo are all self-serving at their core. Certainly there are those board members and council members who undertake their roles with integrity and conscience. I want to give a big shout out to board member Al Davis for his kindness to me personally during the brutal night of Hurricane Ida, and to Bill Herlock for holding the line on doubling the debt for the education portion of the town budget. Throughout, he's asked the right questions and demanded documentation and proper vetting in the face of massive pushback from interested parties. There's a lot at stake for Montclair on November 2nd. I exhort anyone listening tonight to send in your vote, or better yet, get to the polls and pull the lever for an elected school board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-619. It is your turn to comment. 973-619. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Yes, good evening. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. This is Ahava, president of the Tenants Organization of Montclair. Happy to be on the call tonight. Additionally, grateful that you are still holding the virtual calls, and I hope everyone is doing well. I just want to call in tonight to make sure that we alert the public to our upcoming meeting at Trends Coffee and Tea House, Bloomfield Avenue in Montclair. That's going to be on Sunday, October 17th at 4 p.m. It's open to anyone who'd like to come. Generally, the info and intro meetings are for supporters of, so renters here in Montclair who would be impacted or affected by rent increases and having any concerns about their rights or just wanting to volunteer with us, and also our supportive homeowners. We do as well offer a virtual option, and after doing intake with us, you can receive access to our virtual calls, which we've been doing since the beginning of the pandemic, to offer tenants an additional way or ways, days, and times to join us. On this particular Sunday, we will be packing donations that will go to places like, but not limited to, mutual aid events and the food pantries throughout the township. So we're happy to see our residents come out and volunteer that evening. All the supplies will be provided. They've been provided by a mystery sponsor. Thank you. And also, just to make sure everyone knows, we are implementing rent control for the community. It is to help more people so they do not lose their homes. So even before the pandemic, this has been an issue. And again, as we've stated before, everyone's income is not increasing at the same rate as the rent increases. We want to see more people stay in town and not have to leave. So in every moment or idea of this, people are making so much more money and they can afford to pay these exorbitant amounts for rent and have increases that are unexpected and do not help our residents to have stability. It's just not a good idea to buy into that. We want to make sure everyone knows that we are here to provide resources. Tenants Organization Montclair at gmail.com. And we hope to see you all on the 17th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be caller with the number starting 646-522. It is your turn to comment. 646-522. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, my name is Kendra Johnson. I'm a Montclair resident in Ward 1. I'm calling as part of a group who came together to form a COVID pop-up testing close to all of our schools. While we recognize an immediate need for testing that was convenient and fast, we also recognize a lack of testing facilities in any part of town that wasn't downtown, in walking distance of many parts of town, or in places that avoided broken parking meters. We also notice a lack of testing being done outdoors to protect our most vulnerable community members. As our schools are located all around the community, we feel strongly that these locations will be best for testing, especially as we enter into the winter months, with more people going inside. We had a very successful testing site initially in Park once and at the Montclair Inn twice, only to have the town deny a permit for us for the use of the parks after citing the testing group being for profit and liability being an issue. I would like to reemphasize that we would about finding a testing partner who would serve the uninsured as well as the insured. I'm calling in to ask for the council to be creative and flexible in light of the need for these testing pop-ups during this public health emergency. While we recognize that our town manager feels that this is only to serve the public schools, this has evolved to serve a bigger purpose that the town should get behind as champions of public health. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-747. 973-747. It is your turn to comment. Please speak, state your name for the record, I beg your pardon. Mute your listening device and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, this is William Scott, the co-chair of the Montclair Housing Commission, chair of the NAACP Housing Committee, member of the Tenants Organization of Montclair, a landlord in the Township of Montclair for 35 years. I would just like to thank the council for passing the rent increase moratorium, extending it to the end of the year. Obviously, this will give a lot of people additional stability as they try to recover from this ongoing health crisis. Also, for those that are going through the eviction process with the various landlords that have filed eviction notices of over 200 residents in the Township of Montclair. And also the point that Ahava made as far as the implementation of the rent regulation when it is approved. Hopefully, we're still waiting on the appellate court decision that should be coming out shortly. But, you know, we also had the Hurricane Ida. People are still recovering from that. So there is a level of concern and a level of compassion from landlords that should understand people are still in a recovery mode. This recovery mode is going to extend for well over possibly multiple years from the level of loss of income over this particular period of time. A lot of people are still involved in the Department of Community Services rental assistance process, which is a long, lengthy process, can exceed anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, and it may even extend beyond that period of time. So again, Mr. Ron Sonnensini continues to harp on the fact that landlords are losing income. There are multiple resources to make the landlords whole. In addition to the fact, he mentioned the property values, real estate market in the Township of Montclair will suffer. The real estate market in the Township of Montclair is at its highest in many years. So, I just would really press upon him to stop spreading false information. But again, thank you for the council for all you've done and will continue to do to help all the residents of the Township of Montclair. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-820. 973-820. Please state your name for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Good evening. It's Tony Martin with the Tenants Organization at Montclair. I can only endorse the statements by my superb colleagues in tenant protection, Ahava Felicidad and William Scott. I do want to remind everyone that we are still organizing and gathering tenants who need information and support during this time when we still do not have protection for tenants until we get rent control. So if you would like to come out Sunday, October 17th at 4 p.m. at Trend Coffee and Tea House on Bloomfield Avenue, please do. We'd love to talk with you and work with you. And thank you so much, all of you council members who've had to listen to a lot of back and forth from us, frankly, and the opposition on rent control. I know we're right. I know we're on the right path. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 646-220. 646-220. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm calling in about a couple of things. Number one, the masks on our kids. I'm really wondering when you all are going to wake up and treat our kids like the future generation human beings that they are. I have, on my phone a picture from the recent meeting of the Essex County Education Association with Sean Spiller and a bunch of people all laughing and huddled together with no masks
Would you do us
on.
the service
And
of
it's
just stating your name for the record, please?
Oh, my name is Lorraine. And I'm a stakeholder here in Montclair. I have kids in the school and I pay taxes. So anyway, I have before me this picture of several people at the Essex County Education Association dinner on October 8th, where they're all huddled together, laughing. You can very clearly see Sean Spiller. And I'm just wondering, how is it that our kids who are suffering from all this COVID craziness are still masked up, but yet, the politicians and people in the Education Association can go and have a great time and breathe on each other. And I'm also wondering why they're not afraid of the Delta variant. Could it be that it's a made up or not made up, but that it's the media is generating all this fear and even putting it on our children and harming them more and more? I'm just really disgusted with what's going on in America. And I'm also speaking to the attorney there, because he knows that all this is against our constitutional rights, and our children have constitutional rights too. There's a case in the state right now where they're trying to sue Governor Murphy over this mask mandate, and it's still in the works. And anyway, that's one of the things I'm calling about. I think that all should do a little bit more for the next generation, a lot more. And I'm also calling about the elected school board. I'm 100% for an elected school board because I don't know how many years it's been that Montclair has had this appointed board, but it obviously is not working. Considering we were closed for longer than any other towns, it was quite a disgrace how everyone was treated here. And I also want to just weigh in on a previous caller who called in about an app that the teachers were trained on using to know who's been vaccinated and discussing their vaccination status. Because I personally know of a teacher who was in a meeting discussing the app to track students' vaccination status. Again, this is, disgusting. It's against our rights, our constitutional rights. We have a right to medical freedom and, privacy. And, this COVID craziness has just gone too far. So I just, I'm calling in. Also, I'm calling in because I still am having a hard time speaking at the Board of Ed meetings because everyone is, they have
The
some
sound that you heard was your
system
3
where you
minutes
can't call in.
expiring. So please do us the
Okay.
service of concluding your comments.
Okay, I think I'm through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stafford, I usually let everyone just give their comments, but have to respond in the sense of we're out there, all of us, certainly all of us as a council here, and certainly more broadly as a community saying to everybody, we need to be vaccinated. People need to go get vaccinated. Specifically, we have half of our student population who isn't even eligible to be vaccinated. And quite frankly, if we've all gone out there, anyone who's medically able and done what we should and get vaccinated, we wouldn't be having these conversations at this time. So that's first and foremost. Unfortunately, we see all too often many individuals who are against vaccination, also against masking and against the other measures that can add layers of protection. And certainly, again, very happy to be at a Garden State Equality, a ball where it was mandatory to be vaccinated for anyone to attend, and to look what a new normal can look like if we've all done our job and become vaccinated and try and do what's right as a society. So encouraging everyone through that to get vaccinated. let's do what we can. Let's make sure we do all we can also to keep our students safe. And that means they are, as many are not eligible for vaccinations at this time too. Let's keep them masked, and let's do the best we can to keep them in a learning environment that allows them to hopefully interact with their educators in person and do so safely. All important pieces. So you gotta say the public safety piece here. It is about masking. It is about vaccinations. It is about all the different layers. So thank you to all who've gone out there and got vaccinated.
Next will be caller with the number starting 646-225. 646-225. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and do us the service of muting your listening device.
Okay. My name is Jose Adjournment. I live in the Fort Worth. I'm calling tonight because I have a question for the council, also to my counselor, Mr. Cummings. And the question is legal in Montclair to purchase a property, multifamily home, and convert the property into a hotel in a residential area? And this is happening in town, and the company owns more than one property in the Fort Worth. And that is concerning me because it's changing the nature of the neighborhood. Also, it's reducing the amount of rental units and affordable housing, because where there were 3 families living before, now is a hotel charging $200 per unit per night. So is this legal in town?
Mr. Karasik, can you answer that?
Not off the top of my head. I'll sit down with Mr. Sherman or Herman and hear the facts of what he has to say. And then I'll be happy to tell him my opinion about whether or not whoever's doing this is acting legally. I mean, it does certainly sound suspicious, but I don't want to render an opinion without having all the information in front of me. And I'm happy to sit down with Mr. Herman and get it.
Yeah, and Jose, if you could share the address of this alleged activity that you're talking about, I'd appreciate it. And then I guess the other question is, are we sure this isn't an Airbnb that's being used?
Is that a question for me? It sounds like
it's for Jose, really.
I don't know.
So next up would be caller with the number starting 973-330. 973-330, please state your name for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Good evening. My name is Frank Werbacki. I'm a resident of Montclair. And first of all, just so you know, the calling code is incorrect on the creeper on the screen on the TV34, so you might want to change that. As far as rent control, I heard Councilor Russo make several comments about rent control and justifications for it. And I think he knows my position on this, but I'm a little bit taken back because he's now conflated it with COVID. And that's unfortunate because, he knows as well as I do what a difficult time it's been. And this was initiated before we were apparently aware of COVID. And I just think it's a little unfortunate that the advocates for rent control are going down this path. It's not really a high path. But I would like to stick to the facts instead of trying to play on people's emotions that might have suffered in some way during COVID. I think everybody has in some way, but it's unfortunate that the advocates for rent control have gone down this path. Anyway, I made my point on that one. As far as the Glenfield well, I think you might want to have a robust conversation on that one, just to understand the background on that. And it was the equipment that was installed I believe, in 2017, finally. And now it's 2021. And I don't have any issue with the price of the activated charcoal, and I don't have any issue with the technology, although it's, it's the best we have at the moment. But I think we need to understand what we're doing, especially after we spent, $250,000 on the low-hanging well, and that's going to need to be addressed. So thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 917-922. Again, 917-922. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carol, and I'm a 23-year resident of Montclair. And first off, I'd like to thank the council for all the hard work you do for our community. It can't be easy with such a diverse group of people living in town. I'm calling once again to lend my support to the Montclair Police Department. It's quite discouraging to hear the very vocal group Montclair Beyond Policing continue to disparage our men in blue and make assumptions about their character. For instance, in August, there was a Facebook post in the Montclair Beyond Policing site where Alex Vitale was quoted as saying, "The origins and function of the police are intimately tied to the management of inequalities of race and class. The suppression of workers and the tight surveillance and micromanagement of Black and brown lives have always been at the center of policing." I mean, that is quite a bold statement, and it appears that history is just being recreated to suit their narrative. And now we even have Montclair activist Lawrence Ham of the People's Organization of Progress beginning a 67-mile march to Trenton for passage of a police reform bill. Instead of working with the police departments, these groups are continuing to demonize the very people that are hired to keep us safe. These ideas came about because of a very orchestrated national push to defund the police. And let's see, how has that turned out? Well, I'd like to quote a passage from a very recent New York Times article. And it starts, in the middle it says, "In cities across the U.S., police departments are getting their money back. From New York to Los Angeles, departments that saw their funding targeted amid nationwide protests over the killing of George Floyd last year have watched as local leaders voted for increases in police spending with an additional $200 million allocated to the New York Police Department and a 3% boost given to the Los Angeles force. Now, the abrupt reversals have come in response to rising levels of crime in major cities last year, the exodus of officers from departments large and small, and political pressures. After slashing police spending last year, Austin, Texas, restored the department's budget and raised it to new heights. Also in Vermont, they went from cutting their police budget to approving $10,000 bonuses for officers to stay on the job. But perhaps nowhere has the contrast been as stark as in Dallas, where the mayor not only proposed to restore money to the department, but also moved to increase the number of officers on the street, writing over the summer that Dallas needs more police officers. Gun violence is claiming more lives of American teens, children, and adults. Let us please continue to support our police force and give them the funds they require to keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-714. 973-714. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Hello, this is Paul Mikowitz. Thank you for taking my call. I would like to just call to say that I'm concerned. I don't see anything on the website, Township, for any kind of pedestrian safety committee, advisory committee. I'd like to know if perhaps someone could comment on what the progress or plans are for re-establishing these commissions and advisory committees that deal with pedestrian safety, transportation in general, perhaps even parking. But it seems like, not seems like, I know the stats are 2021, the fatality rate is much higher than 2020. People are racing around the streets, and it just has a very chilling effect on getting around safely, and it concerns me. Perhaps someone can comment on what the plans are. I'd like to be able to see some activity and have some resident input in some sort of capacity to town government on pedestrian and bicycle safety. Thank you.
Next would be caller with the number starting 415-418. 415-418. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hi, my name is Tanya. I'm a stakeholder in Montclair. I own a home and I pay property taxes on my home, and I have 2 children in the public school system. My family moved here from Northern California, San Francisco to be specific, and I really want to warn the city council about rent control. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity, and rent control has resulted in raised rent in every city where it's implemented. So I would highly encourage the city council to reconsider rent control. It has the opposite effect of what is intended. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, there are no other callers in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford, Mr. Fan, for working through that process there. Appreciate that, as always. Moving on, we have our new business resolution, which is Resolution R21194. Councilwoman Schlager, would you do the honors? Well, there she goes. There it is.
Sorry, okay. Whereas invoices against the Township of Montclair in favor of the following persons for the amount set opposite their respective names have been received, duly audited, and found correct. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Township of Montclair in the County of Essex that said invoices be and they are hereby ordered paid, and that checks be drawn by the Finance Department to the order of such persons for the amounts respectively and hereinafter stated on the schedule attached hereto and made a part hereof. This bill list is dated October 12th, 2021, for the amount of $20,965,859.59, and I so move.
Second.
Any questions, concerns, comments? Councilman Yacobelis.
Thanks, Mayor. Excuse me. Mrs. Stafford, page 13. I just have a question about PO 2100405. It's PNC Equipment Finance. It says blanket fire ladder truck rental, $110,000. So just an explanation of what that is.
That's the annual payment for the lease to own payment for our most recent ladder truck.
Okay, thank you. Just checking real quick. Page 27. Park Mobile. I just had a question about that fee, the $10,694. Just an explanation of what that is. Monthly transactions. Is that a licensing fee? Is that the software fee?
It's everything that we pay to Park Mobile on a monthly basis.
Got it. Okay. Sorry. That was my last question. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments on the bill list? Lori.
Mayor, thanks.
So, thank you.
Mr. Stafford, I just didn't have the opportunity to ask you in advance either. It's on page 17 and it's watch guard blanket for body cameras. So are these the body cameras for our officers? And I just didn't know what frequency the blanket is paid. In other words, is that monthly, or I don't recall that it was.
Blanket is what the finance department uses for the year for that vendor. And if I remember off the top of my head, that was a purchase for cabling for the body cameras, which are for our police officers. And it has to do with the actual hardware to enable the body cameras to work.
Okay, the one on the page I'm looking just says body cameras, and that's 70,000 in addition, and there's a different place that may have been the maybe there's a different fee that was more to that point. In any case, it's an annual fee, and that's what I mostly wanted to know.
Well, no, I don't mean to misconvey. Blanket is a term used by the finance department when that vendor is going to be used throughout the course of the year. The $70,000 fee, I believe, is for hardware for the body cameras for our police department.
So it is not a repeating cost, it is a one-time cost because it's for hardware. Or
Yes and no. We're paying that in installments. So you will see multiple entries over the next several years for payment for those body cameras. What you're seeing now is the ramp up. The department is purchasing various hardware and software for the initial implementation of the body cameras.
okay, I know it's important that it get done, and I just I'm seeing these pieces of it, so I just wanted to clarify. I appreciate that. Thanks.
And Mr. Stafford, excuse me, Mayor, if I can just ask a question there.
We got another one. Go ahead.
We're amortizing that over several years, right? Like that was one of the things we had done, I think, intentionally to shift some of the cost out of this year to relieve some of the property tax increase, if I'm recalling.
We negotiated that with the vendor.
Okay.
I'm looking, don't see anyone else, correct? Hey, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Stafford, if you'd go over the preview items, please.
Certainly, Mayor. Item 1 would be a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to JD Information Systems Consulting LLC for information technology related services in an amount not to exceed $22,000 for this calendar year. It is reasonably anticipated that this contract will exceed the $17,500 pay-to-play threshold. And so this resolution, with certification by a township official that the estimated amount of the contract will exceed that figure, in this case, our qualified purchasing agent, is required by state statute. Item 2, applicants for development projects are required to deposit funds in escrow. The projects listed on the Schedule A have been determined to be substantially complete, have been denied, or have been withdrawn, and all relevant fees have been satisfied. And accordingly, there appears to be no further basis to retain the escrow deposits listed thereon. This resolution would authorize their release and would direct our chief financial officer to issue checks for same to the applicable developers. Next, on July 13 of 2021, by Resolution R21-146, this governing body authorized a study to determine whether Block 1711, Lot 38, also known as 268 Bellevue Avenue, and containing the former Bellevue Theater, is an area in need of rehabilitation. The local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 40A:12A-1 at SEC, governs and establishes the procedures for making such a determination. To be designated as an area in need of rehabilitation, there must exist any of 6 certain conditions. Given that such is the case per the submitted report, this parcel meets the requirement criteria. Recommendation is made to, in fact, designate the property as an area in need of rehabilitation, and the resolution in item number 3 would accomplish same.
Excuse me, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, if I can speak on that for a minute, please. Mayor, I don't know if you're muted. Okay, I'll just speak on it.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
So would this go on the agenda for the 19th, a week from tonight, or would it be further out?
It would be on for the 19th.
Okay.
These
So
are
I'm
all
going to
items
ask if
for the next meeting, Councilman.
Thank you, sir. Actually, I see that very clearly now in the title at the top. My question is if we can have this actually be on the Economic Development Committee meeting agenda for the 21st as a discussion first before it comes on to council meeting for a vote. I have several questions about this. I mean, I know the deputy mayor had asked for support for this back in July, and I didn't see any harm in having the study done by the planning board, but at this point, I certainly do have some questions that I think we should discuss as an Economic Development Committee with Ms. Talley as Director of Planning for the town. You know, I'd want to understand, and some of this can be answered pretty quickly, but for example, is the theater the only structure that's included? What really is the impetus for this in the first place? You know, it was never been explained kind of where this came from. What is the owner, looking to do here? Like, what are the conversations that have taken place that were the impetus for this in the first place? Looking through the criteria for designating, sort of, I went one by one, and number 1 and 2 certainly didn't meet. 3, 4, and 5 are questionable, and it meets number 6 in terms of the 50-year-old water and sewer infrastructure, but that describes a whole lot of properties in Montclair. So I'd really want to understand, again, what else is part of this picture that we're pursuing this for. And I think it, just generally, if we're following the spirit of our committee structure for the council, this is certainly under the remit of the Economic Development Committee. Concerned about what this designation would mean in terms of the Historic Preservation Commission's role, the zoning's role. So I'd like to, at the very least, I wouldn't support it being on the consent agenda, but would like for it to be on the Economic Development Committee agenda for discussion with the head of planning to be able to ask these questions and have this discussion on the 21st when we have that meeting scheduled.
Well, I will note, I'll leave it to the body. I mean, this body did refer to the planning board, asked for the recommendation and feedback. We received it. If this body needs greater guidance and insight from one of our subcommittees, it would absolutely be appropriate to go to economic development. I'll leave it to the group. Is that sentiment shared? Would everyone like it to go there, or do people have enough information, or what's the status?
Mayor, if I could. Yeah, I mean, as we know, with some of the discussions that we've had since July, there is time is of the essence for this particular property. And any questions that need to be vetted or put before the administration, I would suggest that, those questions are put as soon as possible, not wait for an EDC meeting. I mean, these area of rehabilitation, redevelopment have also traditionally gone through the Finance Committee, as many of us know. I'd like to see this move. I know the owners would like to see this move as quickly as possible. Conversations or questions can be had in the next week before the next meeting. We do have a week. I would recommend that they be had as soon as possible, but not to put this off again. I mean, this has been going on now since July, with all due respect.
Mayor's.
Mayor, you're muted.
I'll
to confirm, like, hey, did you have that conversation? Were you asked about, and the answers were yes, 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 yes. And I said, okay, then we have to also figure out how we do a better job of
Mayor,
working on.
I'm not sure who you're speaking with.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, can you grab this for a second? I got a call that just came in. Do you mind?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to. Mr. Krasik, were you going to comment?
No, I can, but I was just first, it didn't sound like, it sounded like the mayor was choppy, and I just wanted to make sure he understood, but I can see his issue. What I was gonna say is that we haven't had this situation come up in my memory in terms of procedure in the council, but the appropriate procedure in Robert's rules is if, when this issue came up for designating this property in area needing rehabilitation, came up to be scheduled on the agenda for the 19th. If the councilman wishes to defer it, then this is a move. The appropriate procedural way to do that is to make a motion to refer this to committee, to the EDC, which is what I heard the councilman say, and then vote on it. And either it gets referred to the committee or it doesn't, depending on the vote. That would be the appropriate procedure under Robert's rules.
Thank you, Mr. Krasik.
I could say, well, I mean, we can answer questions during the week too, but I don't want to preempt the council person. He has the right to have this issue aired any way he wants.
And I'm not trying to stifle the councilman's questions. I hope we all see that. But we do have a week before the next meeting, and rather than wait to carry it for an EDC meeting, I'd rather see this get done as quickly as possible, because I know time is of the essence for a number of players, including the owners.
The next EDC meeting, if I'm correct, if I remember, is the 21st at 4:30 in the afternoon. So that's, a week
It's
from
after the
this.
next council meeting. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
after the 19th, which is the next council.
Right. Yeah, it's a week from this Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I can make this easy for everybody. It doesn't need to be the EDC meeting, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I take your point that there's a week between now and the next council meeting to ask and get these questions answered. And I think that's totally fair, and we can do that. For me, this is the first time we're doing this, and I think I just take these very seriously. And there's, I think, a lot of areas in town and structures in town that people would ask the question, why are you doing it for this and not for this? So I just really want to understand this more. And me and you can talk, of course, between now and then. And then, if any of my colleagues have questions as well, we should obviously hop on the phone or Zoom or whatever we need to do to get those questions answered. I'm completely amenable to that. I don't need the line in the sand to be that this has to be at the EDC meeting. I'm most concerned with just getting my questions answered before we have to vote on it. That's all.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Yacobelis, as well. And I'm happy to have conversations with you in the next week and share with you the information that I've, gathered over the time period as well, and hopefully answer all your questions to your satisfaction and get you the information that you need. And if I can't get it, I will be sure that the right person will get it to you. And I'm also happy to put you in contact with the property owners themselves if you wish to speak to them directly, if you have questions on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stafford, do you want to continue then on?
Certainly.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Abrams has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
Deputy
Yes.
Mayor, thanks.
Councilor Abrams, yes.
Thank you. So just consistent with that conversation, I had some, maybe not as many of the questions that Councilor Yacobelis had teased out, but a few questions myself. And if it's possible, when you're scheduling, that conversation, I would be, glad to be a third member of the council. In other words, to join if I can make myself available at that time. But one of my questions maybe I can just ask here is, I know that we've dealt with properties while I've been serving that were designated either an area in need of rehabilitation or redevelopment. Can someone clarify why sometimes it's an act of the council and it can be also an act of another body? I believe the planning board maybe can designate
Planning
that.
board. Yeah, that's right, Ms. Price Abrams. I'm going to let Mr. Karasik explain in more detail.
Thank you.
The designation is always by the council as to whether it's an area in need of rehabilitation or an area in need of redevelopment. But there's a whole procedure that's set there. the council initiates a study or the planning board can initiate a study. I can go over the procedure with you, but there are several different steps in each case. An area needed rehabilitation is a much simpler process and also carries with it fewer additional powers. Area needed redevelopment is a more complex process. It gives a lot more power and flexibility to the council, and I wouldn't say circumvents necessarily, but uses other laws to accomplish the development than would be without using the redevelopment. So what I say to you is that I'm happy to go over this stuff with you and Mr. Jacobellis and offline, if you don't mind.
No, that's
And I'm
fine.
happy to participate as well, Councilor Price Abrams, to answer any questions you have as well. Being mindful of the rules regarding open public meetings, of course, and who can participate at what level. But as I had offered to Mr. Jacobellis, I'm happy to share the information that I've gathered over the years as well.
And if I may, just my other question related to all this is, with this designation, is there any commitment of dollars associated on the part of the town, or is that a separate matter?
No dollars associated with this on the part of the town. I don't know, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I don't know if you had a different answer, but that's
No. As lawyers, I'm hoping we all have the same answer.
No, I meant.
But I think, Ms. Price Abrams, to your point too, that's also there's different ways to structure potential pilots if we get to that point via rehabilitation versus redevelopment is another way. But there, to Mr. Krasik's point, which I am completely on board with as an attorney and a councilman, that a deputy mayor, whatever title you want to put on it, yeah, there's no money from the town.
I was trying to give you the opportunity, Mr. Deputy Mayor, of saying that it was fully funded.
Thank you anyway, Mr. Karasi.
Mr. Acting Mayor, I know, I've been.
I might get used to that title, Bob. I don't know. You have to be careful with that, Mr. Acting Mayor. And I see you got my picture there in the background again.
I had it once. I don't need a title. Now, here's the question. I've been involved for years with this theater, and I helped when they were going to close years ago. And I don't want to see any delay. If there's a way we can answer Peter's questions, Lori's questions, or even my own. One question I had is something in here talks about 50-year-old pipes, but I recall something in here telling us that this area is even worse with some 100-year-old pipes, which leads me to want, have an urgency here to do something, because if the pipes are 100, they're going to be damaged and they're going to be in need of repair and replacement. So I'd like to see us move along, but let's get the questions answered. If I can have any input on that within the parameters, as you said, Mr. Deputy Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it. But we want to get this theater reopened. We want to have the family that's invested so much over the years and tried to do this. I was there when it first opened, and I really want us to get this done. So let's get it, moving along. Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. I appreciate your comments.
You can call me former mayor if you want to. You can.
I'm not really into titles.
Inside joke, right? It's an inside joke.
Inside joke. I'm sorry, Mr. Jacobellis. We're making jokes. And Mr. Jacobellis, please.
I honestly don't know what to call you in this moment. Maybe we'll just go with chairman. So I think just maybe two questions that we could answer pretty quickly that I had. One is the theater the only structure in the area being designated?
That is correct. And Mr. Jacobellis, the theater, when you say the theater, just so that we're being completely clear here, and I want you to have the information, obviously, to make an informed decision. That building, if you will, has the theaters, right? And then it also had some commercial space as well. So it would be the entire structure.
Okay. And then the role of HPC, the Historic Preservation Commission, does this change if we do this designation? Doesn't that sort of fast track a redevelopment plan in a way? I don't mean to say we're sidelining, but it, by way of fast tracking something, it changes the interface or changes the interaction that these land use bodies would have. So what happens with HPC's role?
I'm sorry.
No, what happens with HPC's role with this? Just because it's obviously a historic site.
I don't know if the site is. I know the area is. Most of Upper Montclair in that region is actually designated as a historic site, not necessarily by building. That's kind of the way it's been. But this particular site, to your point, I've actually been in contact, as have some of the players, including the owners, with the HPC chair, Kathleen Bennett, who I've worked with very closely over the years to make sure. In fact, I received an email from her this afternoon as well regarding this, conversations to follow, to make sure that they're included as well in any conversations. I don't know if I would necessarily say fast track, because nothing is fast tracked in these things, but I hear what your concern is, and they've actually been brought into the conversation as well, they being HPC. And
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I could say, as the attorney for the HPC, that the HPC's role would be approximately the same as it would be as if this application was brought before a board under the zoning law. So the HPC will not be cut out in any way, and they'll in fact have the same role they would otherwise have.
And we've had those conversations as well, Councilor Yacobelis.
Thank you. And no further questions on this.
Thank you.
If that addresses the questions that we're going to be going to the committee, is everyone comfortable leaving it on the agenda for the next one at this point?
I think we are, Mr. Mayor. We had quite a conversation when you were offline. I'm going to hand you back.
I heard it, Mr. Mayor, almost Mayor, former Mayor Russo.
There were a lot of titles floating around. Yes.
Mayor Love. Yes, I can call. Yes. All right, cool.
So I think we're, Mr. Mayor, with your permission and handing you back the gavel, I think we are now on item number 4 for Mr. Stafford.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, and appreciate you.
You're welcome.
On that call. Go ahead, Mr. Stafford.
Thank you. Item number 4 is a resolution that would authorize the award of a contract to purchase and exchange 20,000 pounds of granular activated carbon for use at our Glenfield well. Glenfield well has 2 vessels, each filled with 20,000 pounds of carbon used to remove from water perfluorinated acids, and the cost of the carbon would be $42,000. Item 6.
Mr. Stafford, I'll take a moment there just to note, big kudos to Mr. Obzarny. Give him a thank you, please. I know that well before it was regulated and required, we've been installing these measures in Montclair to make sure our water is even higher standard than is required. And that's part of this. And he was at the forefront the second we raised this, whatever it was, a council or so ago. He immediately stepped forward and made sure we had this in place. So please pass along a thank you for him. And certainly I think we're all in support of making sure we keep it that way with replacing the filters, but give him a big thank you for being ahead of it. Thank you.
I certainly will. Recently, the remnants of Hurricane Ida storm caused an emergency regarding the storm sewer located at 14-16 Braemore Road and the surrounding area. More particularly, the storm sewer collapsed, causing an approximate 10 by 25 foot section of a driveway to collapse, given the failure of a 24 to 30 inch diameter storm sewer that connects the drainage area from Highland Avenue, Bradford Avenue, and Upper Mountain Avenue through the subject property, continuing downstream to Braemore Road, Lorraine Avenue, and beyond. This failure was not anticipated. For various reasons, the repair work could not be performed by in-house personnel, and given that the circumstances could have caused serious injury and directly impacted the safety of the public, there was no time to secure separate quotes prior to the repair. As such, the township declared an emergency, and pursuant to statute, Speedy Sewer, Drain, and Plumbing Service was contracted to make emergency repairs, including to damaged sections of pipe and videotaping upstream and downstream portions of the storm sewer to determine the extent of damage. Item number 5 is a resolution that would authorize this emergency repair expenditure, the total cost of which is $14,582. Item 6, on September 17 of 2021, the township received, opened, and read a bid, or actually bids, for the purchase, delivery, and planting of trees for the 2021 Fall Tree Planting Program. This would include the planting of 250 total trees throughout the township. Please know that for the past several years, one vendor has submitted a responsive bid for the fall and spring tree planting program contracts. Accordingly, the fall program bid opportunity was split into two bids. That's why I said bid, but bids, in an attempt to increase the pool of submitting vendors. That didn't happen. One vendor alone, again, submitted a response to both bids. Having analyzed the one responsive bid for the first portion of the fall tree planting program, recommendation is made to, and resolution number 6 would authorize the award of a contract for the purchase, delivery, and planting of 175 trees in the amount of $66,625 to Louis Barbato Landscaping Incorporated of Holbrook, New York. Item 7 is further to item 6 and covers the second bid for the fall tree planting program. Again, having analyzed the one responsive bid for this portion of the program, recommendation is made to, and this resolution would authorize the award of a second contract for the purchase, delivery, and planting, in this instance, of 75 trees in the amount of $24,475, again, to Louis Barbato Landscaping of Holbrook, New York. And Mayor, that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. Appreciate that. One second, Councilwoman. I just want to note, appreciate, I know always, especially being one of the liaisons to the Environmental Commission, have noted and thanked, our robust tree planting program, which has grown year over year. And, that's a great thing. We have for some time, Mr. Stafford, maybe it's something to look at with our Environmental Commission, often only had one bidder on our tree planting. That seems to be kind of a standard piece oftentimes. Sometimes we get maybe two, oftentimes one. But let's see, what that's about. I know we've talked briefly about some ways we can maybe somehow expand that and get more potential bidders on these things. But, happy to see that we're again engaging a robust planting plan here, and I'm sure our Environmental Commission appreciates that as well. And we'll see if we can even, expand at least who's interested in doing that. Wanted to note that. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Stafford, for that detailed report on the trees. And I had a couple of questions. One is, I don't recall, is Louis Barbato the same contractor from last year?
Yes, ma'am. We've used that contractor for several years. In fact, I think for every year that I've been here.
That's what I thought. I mean, their name sounds very familiar. So the trees, any trees that were planted last year that didn't survive, I know that I've been told there's a 1-year warranty for trees. So I would hope and think that those trees that haven't survived have been uprooted and replanted.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that's correct.
Okay, that's good. I also, last year I had asked for it and I received, I don't know if the rest of the council did, a detailed list of where the new trees would be planted. I hope we could get a similar list this year. I found it to be very helpful.
Certainly, absolutely.
Okay, and I would be remiss if I didn't make this comment, but the Friends of Edgemont Park, of the group that I work with, are hoping that the 8 trees that have been removed in Edgemont Park and 2 trees that were planted last year that died will be replanted this year. So it's 10 trees altogether. So I hope that's the case. Thank you.
Counselor, I believe they've been responded to by Mr. Wood this afternoon, but I will check for you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Stafford, and to all my colleagues. What else for that? I will, with that, we're set for the next one as well. I'll go around the horn as we normally do. We've got a meeting again next week. I do want to note before I do, certainly some very good news that I know we'll all be very, very proud of, and certainly it's a testament to the great work of everybody here. We once again have received a AAA bond rating, which is unbelievable for S&P. That is very, very important, as has been noted many a time that saves residents here in town millions of dollars. That is a huge deal in our debt services, and it also allows us to go out, as we constantly are, in investing in projects and investing in work, and allows us to continue to do so as we do all the time with the pieces that we go out for, get it at a great rate, and again, saving our taxpayers a lot of money. We've reduced our debt significantly, 60, probably going on 64.5 million now since we, 8-9 years ago. I think that's a testament to strong financial management, and that's exactly what's cited by S&P, by the way, strong financial management of our township, and certainly also putting in policies and practices that are strong in terms of footing for our community. And again, those are dollars then that we can reinvest in our township in a number of ways. And thank goodness, even this pandemic has allowed us those dollars that we wouldn't have had. So great news there for us to keep that rating. It's an important piece, and it's again a testament to the great work that we all do, and want to thank all my colleagues on that, and note that equates to not only real dollars for every single taxpayer, single resident, but it also equates to dollars that we're able to reinvest, and dollars that as we go out for our bonding, and we do that often as well, we're getting those additional savings there. So kudos. Specifically, I'll turn to you, Mr. Stafford, and certainly Brian and everybody else. Please thank the whole financial team and the whole apparatus in the township for also working extremely hard to make sure that happens. I know that they reach out all the time and demand a number of documents and look through a ton of different things. It's a ton of work, and also, you guys are as big a piece of the financial stewardship of the community as each of us in terms of acting out policies and procedures and offering recommendations. So please offer our big thank you and congratulations to them as well for the work well done, as I congratulate my colleagues and our community at large. So just wanted to note that with appreciation. So thank you very much. With that, I'll go around. Why don't we start with Mr. Deputy Mayor? Why don't you start us off today if you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. Just a couple of things real quick. Again, I know, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Russo, we were at the 120+1 anniversary of the Upper Montclair Women's Club. A great event, learned a lot of history with the club when we were all there, of course, as outlined in the proclamation that we both read this evening. It's 120+1, just so that everybody knows, because unfortunately, because of COVID, they were not able to have the ceremony that they would have liked to have. So it's 120+1. That's how that got calculated. And I just want to also echo your sentiments as well, Mr. Mayor, on the retaining the AAA bond rating. It's a huge thing for the town. We save approximately $2 to $3 million every year just on our debt service. Those monies can then be used to repair the curbs, plant the trees, do so much that needs to be done in the town. And we're going to continue on that track as we go forward. Putting us in that was a tremendous help to the town during COVID. We were able to do a lot more because of it, and we will continue to do so going forward. So I want to echo, about Mr. Beneke, our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Rao, Mr. Stafford, Mr. Scandalberry, the team that works with us on the Finance Committee. Thank you for all your help over the years, helping us to not only attain that, but more importantly, to retain that, which is, in this climate, is very difficult to do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Next, Councilwoman Schlager.
Thank you, Mayor. I happily attended the Skate for the Park fundraiser this past Friday night at the Van Vleck Gardens, which was a really great turnout. It was sold out. I hope that they made a lot of money, got a lot of donations for the skate park. I enjoyed hearing Alexis Sablon, the Olympic skater and architect that's going to help design the park. She was terrific, and I enjoyed that very much. I also had a great experience attending the fishing derby at Edgemont Park in the pond. It was, although it was raining and drizzly and a little chilly, it was a great afternoon, and the winner of the Derby caught a 14-inch fish in Edgemont Pond, which is pretty remarkable. It's a pretty big fish. And hats off to the Montclair Police Athletic League, the Montclair Police Foundation, the Montclair Anglers, Eureka Lodge 52, the Police Benevolent Association, and Local 53 for putting it on. It was a really adorable for the kids to be out there fishing. I was so impressed. They had rods for everybody. They had bait. They had snacks. They had soft drinks. It was really a nice afternoon. So I was glad to do that. And congratulations on the AAA bond rating. That's really, really good news. I would also like to ask at some point, I've gotten so many emails from constituents about our broken parking meters. And I would like to, at some point, hope that we could discuss them and get a little better understanding what's going on, why so many meters are malfunctioning. I know that parts are hard to get, and I know that it's across the board, but we really, I would hope that we could talk about it or address it at some future time. Thank you.
Counselor, I have been working with Mr. Germano on that issue, and what I can do is ask him to put together in bullet points what he has planned to do to address this issue and what's been done to date. But yeah, there is a game plan to address those meters.
Terrific. That's good news.
I'll have him circulate it to the governing body.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scantlebury. That's good news, especially since the shopping season's coming up for holiday shopping, and we always want to promote local, shop local and support our stores and restaurants. So thanks, Mr. Scantlebury. That's good.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. And certainly it was something I was going to try and look forward to, that fishing derby, although you remember it was a little bit of rain and the littler guy wasn't feeling so well, so it's had to skip, but I imagine it was pretty great. So
yes,
thank you for that. Councilwoman Price Abrams?
The fish will be bigger next year. Okay.
That's right. That's the plan. He's just going for the big one, the big fish. So, Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Thanks, Mayor. A couple of things I really want to give a shout out to our communications professional Katja Woke and also to the clerk for getting certain voter information out. And I guess, Madam Clerk, you didn't yet have a chance to say a word, but tonight, I guess until 9 o'clock, people could be by you to still receive, to register to vote is today's deadline. There's a lot of other deadlines. I know communication went out. If the public is not fully aware, you can certainly look on our website, but also, I got my notice from the township on October 5th, and maybe we can repeat that for any of the upcoming dates, because there is early voting in person. There's a lot of different features of our elections that I do want to make sure people are focused on and aware of. And I didn't mean to steal any of your thunder, but if you wanted to augment in any way, please do. But I do want to thank you for getting that out, because voting is an eternally important function that we play as citizens, but how we vote is still something that's a little bit evolving, and you can learn where you could vote early as well as in your own home location. With regard to voting, I don't know, and if anybody else can share with the public, I believe there's going to be a forum, perhaps led by one of the local media outlets, to discuss, to have sort of different positions about the ballot question that is going to be for voting on regarding whether we should change to a type from a type 1 to a type 2 school district. And that's another public and important matter. One of the callers did cite, or at least one or more of them. People should be informed, understand the concerns and the considerations there. And if someone, before we can finish this, would know the date of that, I actually didn't find it beforehand.
It's the 21st.
Thanks, Counselor.
Yep.
So, look for information on that. I hope people will consider participating and listening in and posing their questions. Another thing, with appreciation to Steve Wood and his team at DCS and the Montclair Environmental Commission, once again, they had done a pilot project on recycling the big block, generally white styrofoam, not little pieces and stuff, but the big block stuff that so much of the packaging that we're receiving for folks who order online. And so there's a mechanism to reclaim that. And they did a pilot. It was successful. The trucks, they've been bringing it to the destination have been, full even sometimes before their window. So the next one, and I do have it again on an alert. So I want to remind people to sign up for alerts and you'll be made aware of these things as well. It'll be on the second Saturday of every month from 9 till 1, unless they actually fill the truck earlier. They may just call it off a little earlier than that. So with appreciation for everyone who piloted it, who found a way to take it forward, and those of you who are finding a better way to dispose of things like styrofoam, just want to make sure we bring that to your attention as well. And lastly, another thing that came out from an alert. So one more reason why you should sign up if you haven't. If you were impacted with lodging expenses due to the recent tropical storm Ida, that you may be eligible, and there's again explanation about that as to how you may file a claim with FEMA on that. So there was a lot of impact, I know, in the third ward and around different parts of town. So I want to make sure folks are aware of that, and with thanks to our township staff for helping to get so much good information out. I hope folks take advantage of the mechanisms. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Cummings.
Mayor, I'm ready to go. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Yacovelis.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just quickly mention that I got to join my predecessor, Councilor at Large, Rich McMahon, at the Montclair Ambulance Unit last week to see the Ida Fund, where I had raised money online from 400 people in Montclair. We were able to replace what's called jump bags for the Montclair ambulance unit. So a couple of those jump bags. So they invited us to come for a tour, which was great, to tour the whole facility, see the history of that incredible building. That was lovely. And I also got to participate in Montclair Design Week event as well last week over in the Leach building, which was incredibly cool and creepy at the same time. It's been a busy week. I appreciate also Councilwoman Schlager raising the issue of parking meters. I too am getting hammered on that issue. And I look forward to seeing the update on the actions taken. I've seen some of the actions taken with my own eyes, just in terms of making sure we're stickering the meters to say and be clear what the law is. I think a really valid concern that people have raised is that if you're an out-of-towner and you come from a jurisdiction where it's not illegal to park at a broken meter, you might not know that that's the law here. So I think just doing that with the stickers that say that is a decent thing to be doing. And I know one of the actions is making sure that all of the meters are getting stickered with the Park Mobile sticker that has a zone code on it and the instructions, so that people can do that as well. That's an important component here too. And that the EDC, you, Mayor, myself, and Councilor Schlager, I know, are planning to discuss this in depth with some of the staff at our next meeting next Thursday on the 21st to dive into it a little deeper. For the public to know, it's just quite complicated. It's very complicated when you talk about all different parts. You can talk about vandalism, you can talk about the app and who has smartphones and who doesn't. So it's quite a complicated, challenging web of issues to navigate. There is not a quick, simple solution here. If there were, I would imagine we would have taken it already, but we will be contemplating actions that the governing body can potentially take and potentially making a recommendation out to the full governing body, hopefully after that meeting. Other than that, I hope everybody had a good long holiday weekend, and I am concluded. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. And as you note, absolutely, we'll be looking at the meters as we discussed in terms of our subcommittee, looking at the pieces, and appreciate the feedback we have gotten from Manny and others in terms of some of the steps taken. And we'll see what other additional supports we can add to that conversation as Councilman notes. Councilman Russo?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I just want to review a couple of things. The Women's Club, of course, Upper Montclair was a great event. My mother had been a member for 25 years. That was like her great thing to go to every week or every month, their luncheons and their meetings. And she was really connected with the town through that, passed away last year. But I appreciate you and Councilor Herlock coming and speaking, and also the group reviewing the history. The thing I wanted to boost is that by November 6th, 7th, and even beyond is going to be the Holly Berry Craft and Gift Show, which is a major fundraiser for the Upper Montclair Women's Club. So if anyone wants to really buy some nice things for the holidays and candles, gifts, stationery, stained glass, wood carvings, all kinds of great crafts are going to be there at the Holly Berry Craft and Gift Show on November 6th and 7th at the Women's Club of Upper Montclair. Got a nice letter asking for contributions for the Montclair ambulance folks from Diane Estee. They do a great job, and I think that former counselor and Deputy Mayor Rich McMahon has always been fighting for them. I want to also thank the Barber twins, Mickey and Lisa Barber and their family, for running this great Glenfield Park Bike for Life to help with Alzheimer's. And I know you were there, Mayor, and Councilor Cummings was there with me. It was a great event. Again, the two young ladies from Montclair, we shout out to them. They were Olympic champions at one time. The last thing I wanted to mention was that this month of October overlaps both Hispanic Heritage Month and Italian Heritage Month. And people get all confused sometimes. How did this happen? Because years ago it was declared that September 15th to October 15th was Hispanic Heritage Month, taking in all the different groups from all over the world that are from the culture of Spain, started culture of Spain. And then with Italian Americans, who we have a large group here in Montclair, and we have a sister city of Aquilonia in Italy, that's a month of October traditionally. So I just wanted to shout out again to those two groups that make up a large population here in Montclair, people who we deal with. Now, the AAPI group is having a wonderful event, the Diwali Festival, this weekend. I believe it's on Saturday from 12 to 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's going to be at the Montclair Art Museum. So we're going to be having something that really gives a focus to the folks in town who have been organizing so many great events like the Lantern Festival to bring attention to the Asian American community. And that brings us, full circle to, I think my birthday will be October 27th. I'm getting a little old, 74. There's still a lot more is the theme, but I'm not having a party. And since COVID restricts us so much, I think I'll postpone anything like a gathering to announce anything I'm doing in the future till I'm 75, which will be a year from now. But I want to just say that it's been a pleasure working with everybody all these years on the council. We go back and forth, we argue, we debate. Sometimes we have conflicts. You saw a lot of people call in tonight and complain about me, and I felt I had to answer it and I had to clarify things. And I don't like when people make distorted statements. So I just want to make one final statement. Even if it's only me, I'm going to keep fighting, because what happens is that there's people out there who are believing lies, the big lie about the election, the lies about the COVID and about the vaccines and about the masks, like there's some vast conspiracy by Democratic liberals. I was driving up Bloomfield Avenue today to go to a labor union meeting of Assemblyman Tom Giblin. And I couldn't believe that in front of me was a Jeep with all sorts of flags on it, one of which was the appropriation of the police flag, which is a great flag historically. But this guy had those flags, American flags, Confederate flags, and a big sign on his vehicle that all liberals should be deported. Democrats should be shot. Biden sucks or something. I could not believe the hostility expressed by somebody driving very fast on the road like a bully, driving this vehicle. Now, I just have to tell you, when I saw that, I said, what is happening to our country? What is happening with all this violence starting January 6th? People are forgetting what happened. And we're stalemated. We can't get anything done in Congress. We can't get people to talk and work together. We need to do that in Montclair. We try as a mayor and council to do that. I know we have differences, but we try and we respect each other. And I just wish that Montclair could be a model. I've always supported what was the appointed Board of Education, because I was a mayor and I know what it can do, the good things it can do. And I want to urge people again to be very cautious about changing from that just because of a perception that they might have, or because of some gripe they might have, or because things didn't work out so good during the last year or two with the pandemic. We've been dealing with the worst situation we've ever had. So don't just vote on something that's a knee-jerk or an emotional reaction. I see people come on and they say, oh, they're voting for that because it's a terrible Board of Ed, it's a terrible council and mayor do these things. Someone today, very prominent, said to me that, no, the mayor does not appoint the Board of Ed. There's a committee that gives him advice and names. I had to correct them and point out that we'd like to do that, maybe. The League of Women Voters I've been a member of for 30 years decided to stick to its position by a large majority on having an appointed board, but also maybe having a committee that would assist the mayor in getting names and helping, screen people for the Board of Ed. That's a nice idea. But I caution people because I like voting, I like elections. I always wanted to be on the Board of Ed myself. And I've asked 2 mayors in the past, when I was not on the council, to appoint me to the Board of Ed because I'm a teacher, 4th grade teacher in Newark, college professor for 30 years, adjunct. I love teaching. I love schools. I love the public education system. So Mayor Spiller, I just ask you, if I ever leave the council, please consider me for that if you're still being the appointed authority. But I want everybody to look at this, unifying us, not dividing us, unifying us, and give President Biden and Vice President Harris. And the reason I got into this is because Harris is a great vice president, as far as I'm concerned, great first woman vice president. And she was here in Montclair. Former Councilor Baskerville was up with her, with Shante Palmer, one of our great young people in Montclair, former student of mine at Montclair State. They were up there at the university. Not everybody could get in on it, but I got some students who got in and got me some pictures and talked to her, and she's just a great leader. And then down in Newark, of course, she was down in the center of the city with Senator Booker. And fortunately, Mayor Spiller was able to greet her at the airport with Congressman Payne and Governor Murphy. We've got a lot of great things going on. We've got a lot of great leadership. And I just hate to see people come on and just disparage everybody and say how bad we are and what we're not doing. Public service is a real burden on a lot of us. It's been a passion of mine for 22 years in town. And I had run for county freeholder 2 times in the past and almost won. So county, state, and local government has been my life, but I'm really just a teacher. I love to teach children at the lower grades, the 4th grade I started at in Newark, and now the college level. And when you hear me talk here, I just apologize for being a sort of a preacher. I'm not lecturing anybody. I just have so much experience, so much to say, and so much to give. And I apologize if I go on too long, but really, everybody, let's keep working together. Please not have the hostility. What I saw on the road today was a vehicle that had every indication of hate. It was like a Ku Klux Klan vehicle. It was terrible. Appropriating the American flag, the police honoring flag. These are appropriated by these people to say that our country's bad, that all liberals should be deported. I'm a progressive. I don't use the word liberal. I'm a progressive, but the liberal tradition of the country is positive democracy. And this hostility, the Republican Party used to be great. And I really feel that people should work together now to bring back the 2 parties working together to get things done. It's just going to take a couple of votes that we need to have in Congress to get lots of resources into our schools, infrastructure, healthcare, helping families. Imagine, just get those things done with a couple of votes in Congress like we did when we had Medicare, when we had Social Security, the Depression under Roosevelt, President Johnson fighting poverty, Kennedy with the space effort. We've done great things as a country united, and Montclair has done great things as a city, as a township united. So let's just all work together. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry it took so long. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think we need a 3-minute rule for counselors like we have for the residents.
All right. Mr. Stafford, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Mayor, just one thing. Earlier, several folks spoke eloquently about the townships being assigned again by the rating agency a AAA bond rating. And I just wanted to say also how extraordinary this is and how extraordinary it would be in normal times. But in the circumstances that we've been faced for the last 20 months, to have it be again assigned a AAA bond rating is truly extraordinary. I believe the totality of municipalities in the state of New Jersey that has a AAA bond rating is less than 3%. And that is the direct result of the setting of prudent fiscal policy by this governing body and by the past governing body, as well as the excruciatingly hard work by township appointed officials, specifically our chief financial officer, Padmaja Rao, her comptroller, Mr. Macaluso, certainly Mr. Scantlebury and Mr. Karasik, the department head team, frankly, our professionals, Mr. Beneke, Joe Hannon of the Genova Burns firm, who is instrumental with respect to the collective negotiations agreements, which play no small part in the rating. And that, of course, begs the point that the employees at large, given our 8 unions and the fact that we have such collective negotiations agreements that are frankly unparalleled in the state of New Jersey, which were taken under consideration by the rating agency. I think I would not do my job if I didn't say thank you to all of them. Again, it is a testament to the policy set by this governing body and the result of a great deal of hard work by all of those folks.
Thank you, sir. And absolutely agreed. Mr. Scantlebury?
I echo what Mr. Stafford was saying, and not to beat the AAA to death, but because of the rating, and I heard infrastructure come up a couple of times tonight. Mr. Abzarni has been able to perform the infrastructure work he's been doing the last 2.5 years, paying as he goes. In other words, the money is there, there's no bonding, and that way, you know, we save millions of dollars. So that helps. And also I want to speak to the meters for a second. Just so you know, what's been done a little bit to date is that approximately 40 broken meter heads were sent out for repair. They came back last week, and 90 meter heads were sent out last week, by last Friday, for repair. Okay. There's an issue, a major issue with the batteries. And we have 1,300 meters throughout town. And what we did, we recently put a purchase in for 1,000 batteries, so we have sufficient redundancy when the batteries go down. So that's part of what Mr. Germano is going to share with you this week. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that some of the things that are being done, and no one's sitting on their hands, and I know it's frustrating, but it took a while for us to get to this point, so we're turning the corner on that. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Township Attorney?
I just wanted to say that Mr. Stafford left out his own name when he praised everybody. He deserves to be on the list as well. Otherwise, no report.
And former Mayor Jackson should be given a lot of credit for what we have been able to do financially over these last 8 years. Thanks, Robert Jackson.
And Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, as Councilor Price Abrams noted, was the deadline to register to vote for those who want to participate in the general election on the 2nd of November. Although the offices are going to be closing shortly, you still can go online, and you have until 11:59. Register to vote online. The link's on our website. All you need is your driver's license or social security number. So technically, you have until 11:59.
I will say it looks like this meeting will end before that time, so people will have a chance to jump on and go do that. I will say to everybody, there's always, as we noted, lots of great things going on in Montclair. It's been a pleasure to be with many of you on site at a number of these different events and celebrations, which is great. Certainly, we have a lot moving forward. We are all watching, making sure that hopefully these dollars, still CARES dollars, county dollars, other pieces, but also more importantly, infrastructure dollars and other things that as they come in, we utilize them here in the township and combine them with the great efforts that we have in terms of the financial stability we have in terms of being able to put more dollars. Again, can't stress enough. We talk about the AAA rating. That's great. It sounds good, but what it really means is more money to more projects here in town that have a lasting effect and help to reduce the dollars that we each, all of us as residents ourselves, but all of us have to pay as taxpayers. So, really great work there. Look forward to continuing that. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you to all. Appreciate it. We are adjourned.
Good
Have a
night,
great day.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye,
Watch
everybody.
the governor's debate. Watch the governor's
Be
debate.
well.
Governor's debate.